50 Famous Fairy Tales. Tale 21. The Dancing Princesses. In a faraway land there once lived a king who had 12 daughters, each one more beautiful than the last. They slept in 12 beds placed side by side in a long hall. Every night the king himself locked and bolted the door so they could not leave during the night, for his daughters were so beautiful that he wanted to keep them by his side forever. But each morning when the door was unlocked, the king found that the soles of his daughters' shoes were worn as thin as paper, as if they had been dancing all night. How this could happen, neither he nor any of his wise men could imagine. One day, the king issued a proclamation that whoever could find out how the princesses wore out their shoes should have one of the princesses for a wife, and become king of the country. But if a person tried to find out, and in 3 nights could not do so, then he would lose his ears. Princes and noblemen came from far and near to try their luck, but they had no luck at all, and had to go home without a wife, and without ears as well. Then it happened that a wounded soldier came to town. Just outside the town gate, he met an old woman chasing a pig, and having a terrible time trying to catch it. In spite of his wounded leg, and although he was almost as old himself as the woman, the soldier was a nimble fellow, and he soon caught the pig. "Thanks, many thanks," said the old woman. "Is there any help I can give you in return?" "Well," said the soldier jokingly, "you might tell me how the 12 princesses dance holes in their shoes every night. Then I'll become king, and won't that be a wonder?" Much to the soldier's surprise, the woman took him seriously and said, "That task is not as difficult as you might think. Just remember not to drink the wine they give you at bedtime, and to make believe you are asleep." Then she gave him a cloak. "This cloak," she said, "will make you invisible, and you can follow the maidens without being seen." The soldier thanked the old woman and went to the palace and offered to spy on the princesses. He was taken at once to the room adjoining their bedroom and told to keep a sharp watch if he wanted to keep his ears. At bedtime, the eldest princess brought him a goblet of wine. He remembered the old woman's warning, and when the princess was not looking, he threw the wine out of the window. Then he lay down and soon pretended to snore. The 12 princesses heard him, and the eldest said, "Sound asleep and snoring. We'll fool him as we did the others." But the soldier was not asleep. He was watching the princesses through the crack in the wall. Just as the clock chimed 12, the princesses got up, dressed themselves in gowns of silver that shimmered like moonbeams, and fastened on their silver slippers. They were having a gay time, all but the youngest and most beautiful. "Something is wrong," she said. "I feel it in my bones." "Phoo, your bones," said the eldest. "What is there to be afraid of? I have given the soldier a drink that will keep him snoring till morning." Then she went to the head of her bed and knocked on it 3 times. A door opened, and the princesses went out down the stairs, one after the other. The soldier put on his invisibility cloak and followed them, slipping in behind the youngest princess. In his haste, he accidentally stepped on her dress. "Who stepped on my dress?" she exclaimed in fright. "Don't be silly," said the eldest. "You just caught it on a nail or something." When they reached the bottom of the stairs, they came out on a pathway bordered with trees, the leaves of which were silver and gold that flashed and sparkled in the light. The soldier reached up and broke off a twig to take back. As the twig snapped, the youngest princess called out, "Listen! Someone is following us! Did you hear that noise?" But the eldest silenced her, saying that it was only the wind blowing through the trees. They went on, and soon came to an avenue of trees covered with leaves of diamonds. The soldier again broke off a sample, and the youngest princess jumped in fear, but the eldest again assured her it was nothing but the wind. At the end of the avenue they came to a lake, and on the lake were 12 boats in the shapes of swans. Holding the oars of each boat was a charming prince. As soon as they saw the princesses, they came to shore, and each prince took one of the princesses in his boat with him. The soldier stepped into the boat with the youngest princess. As the prince began to row, he remarked, "How heavy the boat seems tonight. I wonder why." "The heat, perhaps," said the princess, but she looked over her shoulder nervously. On the other side of the lake, the soldier saw a beautiful castle. From it came the most beautiful music he had ever heard. The minute the boats touched the shore, the princes and the princesses were up and away, dancing to the music. The old soldier had never seen anything so graceful and charming. He could not help clapping his hands, and although he remembered and stopped almost at once, the youngest princess heard him. But as usual, the eldest quieted her, and they all danced on. When the first birds awoke, the princesses stopped dancing, but by this time their shoe soles were as thin as paper. As they reached the top of the staircase, the soldier slipped past him, and when the princesses peeked into his room, he was snoring loudly. They took off their lovely frocks, kicked their shoes under the beds, and fell sound asleep. The next morning, the soldier said nothing of what he had seen, so that he might watch the lovely dancers on the second and third nights. Everything happened just as it had the first night, except that on the third night the soldier brought back a goblet from the castle. When the time came for him to go to the king, he hid the twigs and the goblet beneath his coat, for well he knew that he would need proof of such a tale as he must tell. It was lucky he did, for the king did not believe him, but when the soldier drew forth the twigs of gold, silver, and diamonds, the king knew he had the truth of the matter. Then the king ordered all 12 daughters to come before him. They knew the truth was out, and they denied nothing. "Which daughter do you wish as a wife?" the king asked. The old fellow thought for a minute. "They'd make better daughters than wives to a greybeard like me," he said. "May I ask another reward instead?" "Name it," said the king. "Well," said the soldier, "it's this. I'd like to see your 12 daughters, and they're the loveliest in the world, marry those 12 handsome princes that they dance with so gracefully." "Granted," said the king, and so married they were, and the old soldier danced at the wedding. The end.